The Wichita Historic Preservation Board will come to order. Rather than do a roll call, it looks like all members are present except Janice Rich. Okay, next order or item of order is the agenda. The agenda was provided to all board members on December 7. Based on your review of December 7, are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
Willenberg moves to approve.
Engel second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Unless there is an objection, the agenda is approved as published. Correspondence? None.
Can I just make a quick announcement though? Because I'm trying to think of when else to say it. So the planning department is currently partnering with the Park and Recreation Department to apply for a Conserving Black Modernism grant for the McAfee pool. The letter of intent is due on the 19th and the grant application itself isn't due till March. I'll have to look into, I'm sorry. I'm nervous, that's why. So the planning department is partnering with the Department of Park and Recreation to apply for a Conserving Black Modernism grant to develop a preservation plan for the McAfee pool. This is off of 14th Street. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, just a quick clarification, Scott Wadle. We're working on, it's a letter of interest, right?
Yes.
Okay, so any grant application will have to be approved by the city council before it's submitted. So at this point, it's just a letter of interest.
That's correct. It's to restore and develop a preservation plan for the McAfee pool off of 14th Street and I-135. So I'll have to see whether the Historic Preservation Board has to approve anything for that. But I just wanted to let you guys know about the letter of intent.
So this is because of the architecture of the Charles McAfee pool.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. The next item is the meeting minutes. The November 14 meeting minutes were provided to the board on December 7 for review. Are there any changes required to the minutes? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve the minutes as published.
I move to accept the minutes from November 14th.
Bob Dixon, seconds.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the November 14 meeting minutes. Unless there's an objection, the meeting minutes are approved as published. Okay, we have one item of unfinished business that involves project HPC 2022-00113.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christina Reith with the Planning Department. I will be brief here because we did a full review of this at the last meeting. There were some changes since the last meeting. So the applicant requests to install a pole sign on the subject property 355 North Rock Island, which is developed with the International Harvesters building. So I'm gonna go through the slides here and show you the new proposed sign. We've looked through the photos before here. Oh, I did not. I'm so sorry. I did not post the the photos. The proposed sign itself will measure 5 feet, 6 3/4 inches high, and it will be on a 10-foot pole. And the sign itself will measure 5 feet, 6 1/4 inches wide. The proposed sign is mostly in conformance with the architectural guidelines for the Old Town District. So the proposed sign, not including the pole, will have an effective area of 31 square feet. The proposed sign will measure a total height of 15 feet, 6 3/4 inches in height. And the proposed sign will be internally illuminated. So that will be, the proposed sign is now in conformance with the Kansas State Historical Society's guidelines for signs in historic districts and on individually listed properties. The proposed sign will not project over the sidewalk and features an appropriately scaled logo. The International Harvester Building in Wichita, Kansas is nominated to the National Register of Historic Places under Criterion A for its contribution to the industrial development of Wichita, and under Criterion C as an excellent example of commercial architecture. Based on the design or the guidelines for signs in historic districts and on individually listed properties and the architectural design guidelines for the Old Town District, staff recommends approval of the application. Now, does everyone have a copy of the photos or the proposed signage in your packet? I do apologize that it was not posted on the PowerPoint. Oh, we have it pulled up here. Thank you so much. I will now stand for questions or comments. Yes.
Yes, I have a question. What is the material of the signage?
I can defer to the agent for this question.
Because that should be included.
Hi, thank you for having me back. Mary Wilson with George Lay Signs, 1016 North Waco. The sign will be built out of aluminum.
Thank you.
So it is aluminum frame with aluminum faces. And we designed this sign so that if in the future you move to allow lighting in the Old Town District, then we can convert it to a lit sign, but we will put it up as a non-lit sign. And if that period of time extends that we can't get internal illumination, then the client is willing to look at something that would have a gooseneck that would come off and light it in the fashion of the neighbor next door at Pino's Palette. And we looked at doing something where we would snake a pole up the building in this corner over here. This was the only appropriate place that we could figure out to do it, to make it kind of look like it was married to the building. And the logistics of that became a nightmare because of having to dig right next to a building and not knowing a footing situation. So, yes. So the client chose to go the route of what the guidelines were suggesting as far as bringing the size down. We brought the height down. And again, it's made out of aluminum, but we can convert some of this to be lit if in the future that is a something that you approve.
Second question, you're 6+ inches higher.
We can adjust that.
Thank you.
I don't know why my graphic designer, I saw that and I was like, we can make that conform to 15 feet overall.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Are there other?
Are there any other questions?
Are you saying that it will not be internally lit at this point?
Yes. It will
It will have a
Capacity.
the plan would be to retrofit LEDs internally if and when that option becomes available. If that option looks like it's going to extend over years, then the client has expressed an interest in doing a gooseneck type lighting that would externally illuminate the sign. If we're gonna put it up, hope there's enough ambient light around. And if that's the case, then we'll just go on down the road till such that we could get it approved. But as it's going up, there's no illumination on it.
Just a point of clarification. Your signage requirements are through being listed individually. You are not in the overlay district, correct?
Yeah, this is located in, sorry. Just gotta speak into the microphone here. So the building is located in the Old Town Overlay District. According to our GIS, it is.
I believe the overlay district originally was till Second Street, and we're on Third Street. But it does have sign requirements because of the individual listing, but please double check me.
Okay.
All the maps I see of the overlay district end at the Second Street.
Okay. I believe it was expanded. Well, okay.
Does that have
Either,
a bearing on this sign today, whether it's in the overlay district or not?
Well, I wrote the report based on the Old Town guidelines because our GIS showed that it was located in the Old Town guidelines. But you guys are welcome to, you know, approve or deny based on your own findings. I mean,
Right, so it meets actually the more stringent code of the
yes, it meets a more
overlay.
stringent code.
Therefore, there's not really an issue with whether it's in or out on this one. Yeah.
so the main changes were the height of it and where it was located, not hanging out over the sidewalk. Those are the two things.
That's correct.
And the overall size.
The overall height of it
Yeah,
too.
we were more like 45 square feet.
Oh, the size, yeah, yeah.
Is there any other discussion?
I'd like to approve what we've seen today on this sign. I think we can go forward with that now.
So you're
Well,
moving to approve the staff recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Willenberg seconds.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the staff recommendation to approve project HPC 2022-00113. All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Opposed, please say nay. Sound like the yays have it, 6-0.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, that moves us to consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda today. Christina?
Thank you. The items on the consent agenda are HPC 2022-00131 at 2320 and 2324 East Douglas. They're doing an interior model of the first floor. They've agreed to preserve the tin ceiling and the original plaster on the interior. And then HPC 2022-00132 at the Garvey Center. You'll notice that it says Bonavia Properties and there's a star there and they're just replacing it, or there's a B on there and they're replacing it with a star in the middle. This is at the Garvey Center. It's at the very top of the tower, very top. Yes. And then HPC 2022-00134, Henry's Department Store. They've got another sign, but it's a very small sign. It's 9 feet by 3 foot 4 inches, sign on the south entrance off of William Street. I would have to pull it up on my email.
Is this sign flat on the side of the building?
Yes,
or-
and it's non-illuminated.
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Willenberg seconds.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say yay.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Consent agenda is approved to include the 3 projects. Okay, we have 1 project review. Christina, since you're on a roll.
Thank you. This is case number HPC 2022-00133. The applicant agent is RDX Properties LLC in Oak Ridge Remodeling. They're owned by the same person, Romaldo Lopez. They're requesting to replace all the windows on the main house of 1113 North Topeka. It is zoned B multifamily residential district, and it is a contributing structure on the National Register of Historic Places in the North Topeka Avenue 10th Street Historic District. And staff recommendation is to deny. The proposed replacement windows, I'll skip over to them here. Having a little trouble with the. So here's the what the front of the house looks like. Let me just give you a little case history on this. So in February, before I started here, the roof was replaced. The kitchen was remodeled on the interior. Some of the interior structural walls were moved. The front, rear, and side porches were replaced with concrete floors, and he redid some of the fish scale shingling for the siding here. And this is the garage that is contemporary. Here's another picture of the side of the house. Some of the openings have been mothballed, as you can tell. This is looking south away from the site. This is the back of the house. I believe this window here at the bottom on the first floor has been modified. And let's see if I can pull up a PDF of the window replacement. Paul, could you pull up that PDF again of the historic preservation packet? While he's doing that, I will just point out here that the applicant proposes to replace all of the wood windows that are original, with the exception of the diamond window with aluminum clad windows. Aluminum clad windows can replicate the color and the texture of wood windows and are a cost-effective alternative to wood windows. However, my point of concern here is that not all of the proposed windows will fit inside the existing openings. And this is a point of concern, especially within the bay window where there's storm windows that are already 8 feet tall. So if we just pull down to the manufacturer's quote here, the tallest windows are going to be 5 feet high, and some of the windows on the side of the house are 8 feet high. So the following paragraphs are excerpts from the National Register of Historic Places nomination file for the North Topeka and 10th Street Historic District. This small residential district in Wichita is made up of 5 properties, all contiguous with one another and surrounded by all sides by commercial buildings and parking lots. The district consists of 5 principal houses, all dating from the 19th century and their associated supported structures. The houses are all of balloon frame construction and reflect the late Queen Anne style. In general, they are characterized by multiple gables with decorated shingle work, applied trim, and spacious porches. The support structures are carriage houses and garages which have been converted into apartments. Some of the secondary buildings, such as that is 1113 North Topeka Avenue, were constructed in the 1930s and 1940s. So just a little bit of information on 1113 North Topeka Avenue. It was constructed in 1886, and it's the least imposing of the main houses in the district and one of the furthest north in the group. It is a simple rectangular structure embellished with a diamond-shaped window set high in its gable front. It is a 2-story, 2-bay house with the first story sheathed with lap siding and the second story and gables with decorative shingles. Small pent roof crosses the gable at the front elevation. A hipped porch roof supported by square posts extends across the front. Single pane sash windows are without decorative trim. The house was apparently built for Mrs. S.M. Hale in 1886 or 1887. She was residing at this address in 1887. Based on the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, staff recommends denial of this application. Standard 6 states, deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of distinctive features, the new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features will be substantiated by documentary and physical evidence. Alternatively, staff provides the following alternative recommendations. You may override the staff recommendation and approve the window replacement as requested, or you can override the staff recommendation and approve the replacement windows only where it fits inside the existing openings. So the remaining windows, which include the 8-foot tall windows and the first floor window on the front, will be preserved. With that, I will stand for questions.
Have you talked to the owner about the height of the windows?
Yes, so we did a site visit and he was very adamant that it was too expensive for him to replace the 8-foot windows. And I looked into repair and he said no.
So the 8-foot windows we're talking about are just on the side of the house?
Yes, so I'll go back to the photos here. Oops. I'm trying to press the keyboard and it's not, it's not working here. So they're on the south side, Paul, if you could go to that photo. Oh. Yep, there we go. So did I not? Okay, I did not upload the photo of. This is just a great day for me.
On the back side of the house, those windows look pretty tall too on the back
Yes.
side.
But that one also doesn't look original, the one on the back. So I told him I was amenable to filling that in. Yes. I'm sorry, Paul, could you please pull up the HPV packet again? That should have all of the site photos, including that of the 8-foot windows. Oh my goodness, I didn't upload it. Okay. Yeah, so the window on the back here, the first floor window, it looks like there were some modifications, like the shutters would not have been there. Yeah.
So how many windows are we talking about that's 8 foot?
I would have to look through the window quote here because he's looking to replace all of the windows. So I'd have to do a quick tally here. 1, 5, 10, 11, 14, 15. 16, okay, 16 windows.
It looks like 3 windows to us. 2 of them are side by side and 1 to the. Oh, there's some lower ones too on the first floor.
So I'm gonna go back here a little bit, see if we can see it from the side. So the 8-foot windows are here on this side. These ones are 8 feet tall. And these are also 8 feet tall. So he plans on filling those in. Well, I mean, they don't fit inside the existing openings. But as you can see in this bay window here, there are storm windows.
So the count is 5.
So there actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 windows are 8 feet high.
On the lower level as well. So almost everything on the south side except for that front one.
Except for the second story window here. That one looks a little shorter.
Okay.
But it's the determination that they are repairable.
In my opinion, yes, I did a site visit. And I even provided him the historic revolving loan program and the historic tax credit program, and he said he didn't look into it.
So if we were to vote to decline this, what do you think the owner will do? Because you've talked to him in a little bit about it.
Yes, so he can come back with a revised application. You know, demonstrating effort to repair the original windows or to replace in kind. That's what I'm hoping he does. But I mean, like, as much as I really want to see this house repaired, because it's, you know, it's in an up and, how do I put it? It's in a, well, I'm trying to put it nicely here.
It's in a neighborhood that needs a lot of help.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And he's done fantastic work with the shingles and the porch. I just want to see that effort continued into the windows.
You know, in that same vein, he should do the rest of the house that well.
Sure, it's easy for us to say that in here.
I know.
But our guidelines are that they should be
If they're repairable.
I believe I'm leaning towards making a motion that we decline it, and hopefully he'll come back with some repairs on some of them and then maybe some new ones with the rest of them, and so they all kind of look fairly alike.
Would you restate your recommendation?
Are you talking about the alternative recommendations? Yes, so there's following alternative recommendations. And so the first one is to override the staff recommendation and approve the window replacement as it is shown in your packets. Or override the staff recommendation and approve replacement windows only where it fits inside the existing openings. The remaining windows, which include the 8-foot tall windows and the front first floor window, which is in impeccable shape in my professional opinion, will be preserved.
So would it be appropriate to approve the staff recommendation to deny and let the staff work out those details?
Yes.
well,
That's what I'm leaning towards, is we decline it and let staff work with him some more. And I know that I've sold windows in the industry quite a long time, and the brand of windows that he's doing, Anderson Windows, is one of the pricier windows.
Yes,
I'm sure that he could find some windows that would accommodate that height and maybe get into his price point, but he might need a little coercion or pushing that direction.
yeah, and I believe the applicant is not here to speak on this item. And he has been notified.
But we do have the option to take the middle ground here and show them some some ability to work forward on this. If we told them, we agree with that replacement window where they fit, which I support that. If he wants to replace windows where they fit with that type of window, I don't have a problem with that at all. Yes.
So you're saying he should put wood windows in and out, and then paint them? What would be the difference between a man-made wood and an aluminum clad?
It's textured to look like wood, I believe.
Yes, so they are wood frame windows that are clad in aluminum, and the aluminum is actually baked into the wood frame to replicate the texture. I've seen window replacements in Washington, DC on historic homes, and they look almost identical to the original windows.
I think that Bruce and I are more concerned about the size than we are the cladding part of it. I think we're okay with that, but he needs to come back with another proposal, it sounds like.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
So we'll make a motion that what you were saying about declining it at this time, I'll make that motion. And we'll see what you guys can come back with on the second try.
Could you put that into the microphone just so we,
Engel seconds.
thank you.
So it's been moved that we approve the staff recommendation to deny with the staff to go back and ask for an alternate plan.
Sounds good.
To work with the owner.
Okay.
All those in favor say yay.
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 Opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
We've got 5 yay and 1 nay. Do you wish to be recorded? So the motion carries for the staff to deny the application and work with the owner on a solution.
All right.
Okay, approval of the 2023 HPB calendar.
Willenberg moves to approve.
Oh, any discussion on that, Christina, or?
No, there's no discussion. It's just, yeah, an FYI.
Engel seconds.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2023 HPB calendar. All those in favor say yay, yay.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, the next item is approval of the HPB bylaws. You guys had that added to the agenda. You want to lead the discussion?
Yeah, so Bob Potter sent out some edits that were made to the historic preservation bylaws. Did you guys have a chance to look at those? They're not included in this packet.
I sent you back my comments to both of you.
They were copied on the report as well as the matrix.
Yes.
I did not get whatever was with the comments.
She
I
couldn't
only got
open it.
Okay, I can, if you stop by my office later, I can print out the bylaws with the comments on there.
Okay, in a nutshell, what I found was when I reviewed the brain dead here, the bylaws against the municipal code, there was a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of omissions, a lot of abbreviations. There was a lot of items that just didn't reflect actual practice of what we're doing today. So I commented on those on both the municipal code as well as the bylaws. That being said, I'd like to make a motion regarding amendment of both of those documents. I move that the HPB amend the HPB bylaws and propose amendments to section 212, 1015 of the Code of the Ordinances, City of Wichita, the municipal code.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, you don't have the authority to amend
I
an
said
ordinance.
recommend.
That has to go through a whole different procedure, but you can,
Let
I didn't pick up the recommend. I do
let me read
apologize.
it again
Yeah.
then. Okay. I move that the HPB amend the HPB bylaws and propose amendments to section 212, 1015 of the municipal code and to the HPB board description on the City of Wichita website, wichita.gov. The amendment to the preceding shall consider common language as to purpose and scope, shall consider the requirements of Robert's Rules of Order, and shall consider actual working practice of board appointee and process. Do I have a
Question.
second? Without a second, the motion will fail.
Just discussion? We do need to amend these. I'm not sure if we were voting to amend what you suggested or if we have a seminar or a session where we just hash through the. There are quite a few items there to be changed. You did an excellent job finding most of them. But I think a little more input is necessary to find all of them. And then I believe it should go to legal for review.
And I agree, it's not one person, it's the entire group. And I would be happy to make that first cut. And the next meeting we could have a discussion on the proposal.
It could be fairly long. I think rather than one blanket, we would probably need to go item by item so we know what we're voting on. Or I don't know, I spent 2 hours
I
going
agree.
over it.
I
And
agree, and I didn't even.
I think the 3 items you mentioned all need to be reviewed. So does the Historic Preservation Plan of 2002. It has some of the same items that you're talking about that, for one example, that Bob caught and Christine and I had discussed it before too. It says we're all appointed by the mayor. That hasn't happened forever. It refers to Citizen Participation Organization, which we were both members of back in the late 70s. It preceded DAB. And most of you know how long the district advisory boards have been here. There's a lot of language and Bob did an excellent job going through that and getting us started on this. The question is, how do we proceed?
Is there a second?
Can you repeat the motion, please? Can you repeat the motion, please?
I move that the Historic Preservation Board amend the Historic Preservation Board bylaws and propose amendments to section 212-1015 of the Code of Ordinances, the municipal code, and to the HPB board description on the City of Wichita website, wichita.gov. The amendment to the proceeding shall consider common law language as to the purpose and scope, shall consider the requirements of Robert's Rules of Order, and shall consider actual working practice of board appointee and process. I would be happy to amend that motion to state that the amendment process would happen at our next meeting and would be a line-by-line discussion.
I would propose a second amendment to add the 2000, I believe it's 2002 Historic Preservation Plan to the list that needs to be amended or updated.
Are you proposing to do all four of those documents in one meeting? You're going to be here till Tuesday.
I guess I would prefer that we narrow it to just these three because of the governing documents that probably caused that to happen. And that meeting occur at another time.
They definitely don't have to be at the same time, but they all need to be amended.
I just wanted to ask, the Historic Preservation Board, did the city of Wichita set us up to begin with? Then maybe that should be the entity that fixes the problems.
Before you answer that, they probably set it up through the municipal code. Didn't the HPB develop their own bylaws? The code caused the bylaws to be developed, and the bylaws were developed by the board.
So it sounds like there's two different things going on. One is the bylaws and one of them is the differences. You said there was numerous differences in the two codes where we need to get somebody from the city and somebody from our end and go through all of these differences you're talking about. That's one issue. And then the bylaws is another issue.
As Mr. Van Zandt pointed out, we can amend the bylaws. We can propose amendment to the municipal code. That seems to make sense that they go hand in hand. So that proposal would go up to the city, not after it leaves us. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you have proposals to the code, then that would need to be something that's marked up. Then I have to put it in a particular format, and that has to be run by the city manager and all through a procedure to do that. And then it's placed on the agenda for the city council to vote on. And then so how long that takes, I don't know, but we need to have a working copy of the ordinances with the proposed changes to start with.
Yeah, I would be happy to put that in any format that you need. So.
Then everybody.
So am I right, Bob, that the bylaws is a separate issue? And maybe that's something that we could look at is the bylaws part and straighten that out, but then work on the different code items at a later time.
we could do that. It just seems that they should go hand in hand in the recommendation though.
Well, it sounds like they're sequential, really, because we have to come to an agreement on bylaws before then comparing that to how that would result in recommended amendments to the code, correct?
That's where it gets fuzzy for me, because to me, the municipal code is what causes the bylaws to be developed. So I don't know that you can amend one without looking at the other, or at least making recommendations.
So in that model, we should amend the bylaws to fit current code.
Amend the bylaws because they're ours to amend and make recommendations on the municipal code to the city.
I think that's what I was saying, but I was saying do the bylaws first. Let's get our own house straightened up and then we can look at the code as there are differences and address those. If we bring in all the bylaws, they have to approve our bylaws also. That just makes it a little bit tougher. I think that we should fix those bylaws. It sounds like, I don't know.
I think it's an apple and an orange. And one we have control of it, the other one we don't. So we're making recommendations of the one we don't have control over.
I personally, I understand where you're trying to get at, but I think I would feel better about it if we looked at them individually. I understand that they are connected, but we have to come to an agreement on bylaws first.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that we can, I think, come to an agreement on. So, yeah, I have no problem with that part. So, I'm looking around here. So
Bob, do you want to change your
I'll
motion?
amend my motion to everything that we stated there. And if you want, you could strike the recommendation part. I moved that the HPB amend the HPB bylaws. The amendment to the preceding shall consider common language as to purpose and scope, shall consider the requirements of Robert's Rules of Order, and shall consider actual working practice of board appointees and process.
Read that very first part again.
And the funny part about this is we're going to have to look at that municipal code to do this.
So I'll,
And
What?
Gary, I'll hand you the sheet of a written statement of what Bob has for the motion.
Bob, would it be simpler just to say that instead of trying to itemize what we're looking at, just say amend it to bring it to current practice?
All right. I'm going to amend the motion to state as follows. I move that the HPB amend the HPB bylaws.
Willenberg second.
Any further discussion?
so it's nothing specific right now that we're just going to amend them someday. Nothing specific now.
So do I need to come back with an edited draft of the bylaws? Because as Claire mentioned, there's the citizen participation organization that needs to be swapped out, and then any other edits that you guys have. So should I come back in the January meeting with the edited bylaws to review?
Yes, that would be after we pass this motion, and then that would be what you need to do for the next meeting.
Okay.
So we clear? Any other questions?
Bob, I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in,
I didn't get any of that because nobody spoke into the microphone about what we're seconding, what the motion is. Could you repeat that in the microphone one more time, please?
problem. I move that the HPB amend the HPB bylaws. That's been moved and seconded. And discussed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Aye.
Can we give Christina?
Okay, it's been moved, seconded, and approved. 6-0.
Can Christina go ahead and where it would say ad hoc member for, and I don't even know if we want to name the person, but it used to be Bob Puckett for Sedgwick County, Wichita-Sedgwick County Historical Museum. I believe it's Eric Kale now. Things like
Yes.
that. Could she go ahead and supply that info in her revised boilerplate that we're going to look at?
I don't know if we can name like specific people for ad hoc members. Okay, I'll have to look into it.
Since this is a document of the board, I really think that the board should do the amendment. And Mr. Van Zandt or Christina, they're more than welcome to send that output document to them for review. We good there?
I just wanted to point out the reason that we are looking into these bylaws is because the current copy of the bylaws is not signed by the Director of Law. So it's pretty urgent that we do this.
You mean we didn't have to come to this meeting?
This whole thing is illegitimate.
Yeah. Could we
Honestly, when you guys start looking at this and maybe compare them to other bylaws, you're gonna probably have quite a few more items that you'll want to add.
Right,
Because it was, to me, it looked like a pretty rough cut.
I want to make
That
sure
they-
we get special hats and I want a jacket that's embroidered.
color,
Done.
color.
Okay, let's move on to the next item, and that's, oh boy, status of the ad hoc committee on signage. Okay, so I sent that report out and I hope everybody could open it, review it. And what I thought was going to be a simple task is not. So in addition to the report I sent out, I've got some feedback from on the language. But the more I read the guidelines, the more I read the zoning code, the city sign code, the cloudier it becomes. And really, the first case we talked about today, the 113 document, is probably a good example. Because as I evaluated this particular application, it took me to the guidelines. And when I go to chapter 3 of the guidelines, it takes me to the city sign code and to the zoning code. When you go to those documents, the area of a sign, and I visited with Christina to get a sanity check of my ability to read a table. But when you go to the table 4 in section 37 of the sign code, it allows for a sign to be 25 feet tall and 50 foot, in this case, 50 square feet in area. So which prevails? Does the city code prevail or does the guidelines? Now, I grew up in a world where that's really regulated. I've worked in nuclear and I worked in aerospace. And in nuclear, a guideline is a document that tells you how something should be done. Whereas a code or a regulation is the requirement, is the prevailing document. So as our board reviews these applications and we come up to cases like this, I think it's very subjective of how we handle these. And I don't know that there's a way out of that. So the case today, if the sign would have been 7 feet by 7 feet, it would have been rejected through the guidelines, but it would have been perfectly acceptable to the city code, the city sign code. And by the way, that city sign code, again, is mandated through chapter 3 of the guidelines. So that being said, we're going to have a couple of opportunities to word engineer a couple of those items in the design code, but or the guidelines, but I don't, it's a training. It's going to be a training issue, I think, or maybe a discipline issue for us moving forward. And I think this little matrix I created kind of, at least it opened my eyes as the disparity there of a true course of action that we should take. When I read the original application today, I think we were prepared to approve that application with the internal lighting. Am I right? Whereas the guideline says no. So just, I'm sharing that with you because the next update you get is probably going to sound more convoluted than this. And when we come forward with some suggested wording. Any comments?
So it sounds clear as mud, but it sounds to me like we are a recommendation organization, not necessarily the final, we're guideline people, we're suggesting, we're recommending, but we're not saying you have to do these windows this way. He could take that to the city council with another set of codes and it get approved. We are just a organization that recommends, or we'd like to see it this way, or that kind, is that right?
Well, in doing that recommendation, though, I think we're expected to perform due diligence, and that is look at the requirements. And we're not.
Or to look at the guidelines, not the.
Both, but we are to consider what our mission is to protect the historic fabric and yada, yada, all those things. So that's where the guidelines come in. And they're really our mandate because they're set up, if set up correctly, to protect the environment, the built environment, the neighborhood character, the property value, and all those things that are in our bylaws. That's my take. I could be wrong.
But the interesting point you bring up is it's a guideline because ultimately we don't have the teeth to enforce it as a final regulation, as you put it, versus a guideline.
And as you read the guidelines, the term should is used rather than shall. And so you're absolutely right.
So maybe some of these things that are different between our guidelines and the city, they're going to be different. So it may be that we can't make them the same, which would be ideal, but it doesn't sound like. So there may not be as many as that we need to actually go through if we just stay by our guidelines and just recommend what we think is proper for what the architecture is of it. And going forward, maybe, so there may not be as many changes, but the bylaws for sure need to be changed, but maybe not as many of the code things.
I think what's going to come out of this is it's going to change the dynamic of how we have those discussions. Because my approach to reviewing these applications now will include both documents, because the code is referenced in the guidelines. So, and your point is, or in many of you will just simply look at the guidelines and base it on that. And that's fine. That's why we have a committee.
But that's why I like a lot of the stuff that you put in there, though, that speaks much more to the overall goal of the guideline as opposed to a very specific, it shouldn't be more than 7 feet or whatever. Once we start getting to that, I think we actually go against what we're really trying to do here, which is what's the spirit of what we're trying to do, as opposed to a regulation that is so hard and fast. And a lot of this stuff is going to feel softer because of that. I mean, I look at this and say, when I first joined this board, I didn't go through all that stuff. Nobody took me through all that stuff, probably for good reason. But, in the future, I look at this and say, whoever joins this board after I'm off of it, I want them to be able to look at that and say, oh, okay, I understand. I have a clear idea of the frame of mind I need to be applying to the discussions that we're having that lead to recommendations. That's the whole purpose of it. Yeah.
Okay, I think we beat that horse to death. So it's time for adjournment. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Hearing no objection, the meeting is adjourned.